There was a time in Britain when life moved with a softer rhythm. Everyday interactions felt guided by invisible threads of courtesy, and when people didn't need to be reminded to behave with grace because it was simply part of how the world worked. It wasn't a grand performance or something anyone tried to show off about. It was just the way you lived, shaped by quiet expectations passed from parents to children, from neighbors to newcomers, until the entire country seemed to share the same unspoken agreement about how to exist together. And somewhere between the rush of modern life, the rise of technology, and the slow unraveling of old habits, many of these small but meaningful gestures quietly disappeared, leaving those who remember them wondering how something so ordinary could vanish so completely. So, let's look back at the manners that once shaped British life, the ones millions we grew up with, the ones that knitted communities together, and the ones that, without us ever noticing, slipped straight through our fingers. Number 1. The automatic greeting between neighbors. There was a period in Britain when stepping outside your front door meant entering a tiny social stage, one where you instinctively acknowledged every neighbor you passed with a nod, small smile, or a gentle morning. You didn't need to know their surname or what they did for a living. It was simply the polite recognition that you shared the same patch of earth. The streets functioned on this quiet ritual, and it created a sense of belonging that held communities together, even when the people living there had very little else in common. Today, those greetings have evaporated almost entirely, swallowed by a world where people walk with headphones in, eyes down, and a hurry in their stride. What once felt like the most natural thing in the world now feels like an unexpected act of bravery. Generations remember the warmth that came from these tiny exchanges, warmth that cost nothing but somehow meant everything. Number 2. Men standing when a woman entered the room. This gesture wasn't about superiority or spectacle. It was an instinctive sign of respect, a quiet acknowledgement of someone's presence. Fathers taught sons as early as 8 or 9 that remaining seated when a woman joined the table was simply not done. You rose even just a few inches to say, "I see you and I welcome you." It was a habit performed in school assemblies, family dinners, workplace meetings, and even in cafes. It vanished quickly once the world changed in the 60s and 70s, replaced by a more casual way of treating one another. But for those who grew up with it, the memory of an entire room rising in perfect synchrony remains one of the clearest examples of how manners once structured British life, with silent choreography. Number 3. The queue that policed itself. Britain's queues were legendary, not because someone enforced them, but because no one needed to. A line would form as naturally as breath, stretching from bus stops to bakery counters, from post offices to ticket booths. And it wasn't the presence of the queue that was remarkable, it was the discipline inside it. Children learned early that pushing ahead was a moral sin, punished not with shouting, but with the cold, devastating force of British social disapproval. Strangers didn't just wait, they waited together. United by fairness, elderly women moved to the front without a word. Pregnant mothers were ushered forward by instinct, and the entire line shuffled politely as one unbroken organism. It's not that queuing no longer exists, it's that the sense of collective honor that once governed it has thinned to a memory. Number 4. The unspoken rule of giving up your seat long before polite notices were plastered over train carriages. Everyone instinctively rose for elders, pregnant women, or anyone struggling with bags, or children. Teenagers did it automatically. Young men did it almost anxiously, standing so quickly that then newspapers fell onto their laps. And the beauty of it was that both sides understood the ritual. The offer was made graciously, and the acceptance was given with equal grace. Today, the gesture still happens, but it is no longer universal. Some subtly avoid eye contact, some pretend not to see, and some don't even realize it used to be considered a basic expectation. But ask anyone over 50, and they'll recall a time when giving up your seat wasn't an act of kindness, it was simply what being British meant. Number 5. Gloved handshakes and formal introductions. There was a period when meeting someone new required a tiny performance of formality, one involving gloves, posture, and precise phrasing. Men removed their hats. Women offered a gloved hand. Names were exchanged with clear enunciation, and no one addressed each other by first name until invited. It wasn't stiff or cold. It was the etiquette that ensured everyone felt acknowledged. Today, introductions are fast, casual, and often forgettable. But in those years, the way you said your name mattered because it showed the world how you carried yourself and how respectfully you treated others. Number 6. The everyday art of writing thank you notes. It's hard to describe to younger generations just how significant written gratitude once was. Receiving a gift, staying overnight with relatives, attending a dinner, all of it required a handwritten thank you note. Within 48 hours, people kept stationery. For this sole purpose, children sat at tables practicing their elegant loops. The notes weren't long, but they were sincere, and sending them was a sign that you valued the time, effort, or hospitality you had received. Today, a quick message suffices, or sometimes nothing at all. But those delicate cards, slipped through letterboxes or carried to the post office, represented a small but powerful ritual of appreciation that shaped relationships for decades. Number 7. Soft-spoken voices in public spaces. British buses, trains, and waiting rooms once moved in near silence, broken only by the rustle of newspapers or the polite clearing of a throat. Loudness was seen as intrusive, almost offensive, a breach of the shared understanding that privacy, even in crowded spaces, mattered deeply. Couples spoke quietly. Children were hushed gently. Teenagers avoided drawing attention. Today, public spaces are louder, busier, punctured by phone conversations and videos played without headphones. But many remember when traveling felt peaceful, almost meditative, because everyone respected the bubble of others. Number 8. Proper visiting etiquette. Decades ago, visiting someone's home was almost ceremonial. People phoned ahead, often days ahead unless the matter was urgent. Turning up unannounced was considered intrusive. Guests brought flowers, biscuits, or small offerings. Hosts prepared seating, brewed fresh tea, and made sure the best china was used. Children were taught how to sit politely, how not to interrupt, and how to thank the host properly on departure. Today, visits are more casual, spontaneous, sometimes even chaotic. But there was a grace in the preparedness of the old rituals, a shared respect that made every visit feel valued. Number 9. The strict etiquette of the dinner table. Family meals were once miniature classrooms of courtesy, each rule teaching children how to behave with consideration for others. Elbows stayed off tables, napkins rested in laps. Nobody began eating until everyone was served. Requests were phrased as, "Could you pass?" rather than reaching across someone's plate and finishing. Everything on your plate was not simply encouraged, it was expected. These rules created a rhythm that shaped the feel of the household, turning ordinary meals into calm, structured traditions that many now look back on with surprising fondness. Number 10. Speaking through understatement, not confrontation. British communication was once the delicate dance of subtle phrasing and restrained emotion. Saying something was not bad meant it was genuinely excellent. Quite good equated to high. Praise and complaints emerged through gentle hints rather than open irritation. This wasn't avoidance, it was a cultural code that valued harmony above bluntness. Today, people speak more directly, which has its benefits, but many still smile at memories of conversations where entire paragraphs of meaning were folded quietly into a single understated sentence. Of booking back at these lost manners isn't about suggesting the past was perfect or that modern life is lacking. It's about recognizing how these small, almost invisible rituals once shaped the rhythm of British society, softening interactions, easing tensions, and creating a sense of mutual respect that lingered in the air. We may not return to all of them, nor should we try to recreate every detail, but remembering them reminds us that the smallest gestures, a nod, a thank you, a seat, offered quietly, can still carry the power to make life feel a little kinder, a little warmer, and a little more connected. Which one of these vanished manners surprised you most? Let us know in the comments below your memories to help keep these stories alive.